Today we talk about JVP. Before we proceed with the medical aspect of it, we'll just talk some physics. Just imagine a bladder which is connected upwards with a pipe. Bladder is full of water. There is nothing blocking the water from going up. This bladder has two additional things. It can contract and relax. One more thing, it can episodically release the contents down. The source of water to come in and fill. So, what all thing will decide the pressure inside the bladder? How can you say? Suppose something is hiding you the entire bladder and you are allowed only to see the pipe coming up. So entire bladder is behind a curtain and what you can make out is the pipe up. So what is the pressure change happening in that chamber? You can make out only by one method. You just see what is happening to the level if it is observable. The level going down, up, to what extent it goes up, how it comes down, how it again rises. The pattern of the rise and fall of this level, to what extent it goes up, how it goes up, how it dips down. So that's what you are assessing. In fact, the very same thing which you are doing in medicine, it's the entire assessment of the right-sided chambers, the right atrium and the right ventricle. The pressure changes in the right atrium is what you are assessing by watching the pipe. The right atrium, I said, contracts and builds up the pressure. When it contracts, when the floor is closed, the pressure builds up. Then at peak, the floor just goes down, the build-up pressure just goes down. And at that time, at that point of time, what will happen? The floor is completely open, so the pressure of the whole right side is reflected here. During the diastole, the whole right atrium and ventricle pressure is same and that is being reflected up. What happens when the ventricle contracts? At the beginning of the ventricle contraction, the floor gets closed. So there is no relation. What happens in the ventricle, the atrium doesn't know because the view is closed by the floor. So whatever happens inside the right atrium during that period is the wave, and the fluid and the pressure accumulating in the right atrium only. That doesn't represent the ventricular pressure. So during the diastole, the ventricular chamber pressure is reflected. During the systole period, most of the systole period, the gradual pressure building up is only the right atriums. I'm just ignoring the left part. Left atrium, left ventricle, just you are ignoring, just you are giving maximum consideration to the right atrium and the right ventricle. I said pressure changes. It's not the pressure changes. You are just assessing the indirect method of looking at the waves in the jugular vein. Jugular vein, you need to know the anatomy. Right and left jugular vein goes down, it joins with the subclavian at the root of the neck, somewhere in the here, where there is a jugular bulb. From there, the innominate veins occurs. From the superior vena, the innominate veins. Innominate veins, left and right will join the left innominate vein take a course across the minor brain sternum to join the right innominate vein, which almost vertical, then it goes down to the RA. So the importance of this anatomy is the right atrium and the right the superior vena cava, innominate vein and the jugulars are in the vertical axis. There is no valves in between. About the left side, left jugular, subclavian, left innominate, it takes a horizontal path to the right between the aortic arch. There is something in between also. There's a chance of kinking. And maybe that's the reason why you chose the right jugulars for the assessment. So it's a direct upward without valves. So usually JVP, you choose this thing. Occasionally you can look for use the left side also. What about the other thing? So if you look at the sides of the neck, what's so obvious is another vein which crosses the sternomastoid outside. Actually, internal jugulars are beneath the sternomastoid. What you see outside is the external jugular. External jugular also comes down and joins below the innominate. And that also can be used, but there are few limitations of that. The valves, there's a chance of kinking because the deep facial, it penetrates, and maybe it's susceptible to vasoconstriction. So many things make it less desirable, less useful compared to the internal jugular. The waves, if it is seen, okay. It may not be seen sometimes. The absence doesn't help you, but presence, maybe you can use that also. Now comes the method of assessing the jugulars. How will you assess? Daylight. Or maybe in the hospital settings inside, you can use a torchlight tangentially. Tangential is much useful. So you turn the head to this side, chin is lifted, and you stretch this part a little bit, not too much. Then you can make out the side. The jugulars are between the two heads. The two head you are looking for here. So you see the waves if the JVP is raised only. And if the JVP is raised, you can see the waves. It can be extending upward. It's not the pulsation you obviously see somewhere here. Most of you will be seeing the pulsation here. At the level of thyroid cartilage in front of the anterior margin. It's not the jugulars, it's usually the aortic pulsation. It is expansile pulsation and palpable pulsation. Don't palpate that area because carotid sinus is there. So most of the visible pulsation there will be carotid pulsation. So venous pulsation, you have to differentiate. How to differentiate venous and the arterial? It's not expansing, and you can block it. So these are the methods by which you can differentiate. So you should be looking for between the heads and non-pulsatile, compressible things. And that's how the torchlight help you to say the waveforms. So when you observe, what all things you will observe when you look for these five? One thing, where is the level of the upper level of the fluid column? Second thing, the way it goes up and down during the right atrial pressure changes, which constantly happens during the systole and diastole. What position? What are you assessing? How much pressure in the right center, right atrial center? So usually it's about 5 to 6 millimeters of mercury, equivalent to almost 5 6 centimeters of water. So whatever it be, it is in the vertical position. It corresponds to somewhere around up to the level of the clavicle. You can't see. if you are sitting straight. If it is elevated, only you can see up. So you just imagine a water level when you in this landing in this position, whatever position, the classical position you need to assess is 45. So should the examination be done only in that angle? No, you can examine the 15 to 30 degree. So lower angles also good. The angle doesn't matter at all, because what you are assessing is how much is the pressure above the central arc. If this is the body position here, this is the vertical height you are measuring. Irrespective of the body position, the level will be the same. Whether you are in 45 degree, 30 degree, every position will be the same. So position doesn't matter. Position matters only when the JVP is so raised. So if you are trying to look for the JVP in the standing position, you may not be seeing the upper level. So in that situation, you bring it to 45, maybe you bring the patient to sitting position and see. Then only you can see the upper level, and the measurement is, you just measure the vertical. There is no need for correcting the other method of applying this from the sternal angle. The scale is used to assess the horizontal level from the upper level, then the vertical distance. That's a method. So if you are sitting, if it's too high, you can directly measure the pressure in the jugulas. So this situation can happen if the JVP is too high. One classical example is where you may not see the upper border, upper level, even in the vertical position in case of tricuspid regurgitation. Two peculiarities in the tricuspid regurgitation is, it may be palpable venous. Venous pulse can be palpable. And another situation, the earlobe pulsation you can see. There is one more interesting entity where you can get much worse pulsation, which is reflected into the jugular veins. That is what is called the Jarbot shunt. The ventriculum, from the left ventricle, some blood enters to the right atrium. The left ventricle has got much more force, and you may get a pulsation where the JVP is so raised and it feels like an arterial pulse. So I have told you how to look for the JVP, which position, how to assess the level. So just very simple, one half of the JVP analysis over. Normally you won't see any of these waves because it is upper level of the clavicle, and in a situation where the right atrial pressure is high, you will get the JVP. If in a borderline situation, how will you examine? In a borderline situation, you look for the compression, hepatojugular reflex. You just press on the liver, gentle pressure on the liver. You are adding a little bit of blood onto the right atrium. It's already working at the maximum. You are adding a little bit more. You get it. The JVP. It can happen in a normal child also, in a normal person also, but transient. So if it is raised 1 centimeter more than 1 minute, that means it's JVP to be taken as elevated JVP. So hepatojugular reflex is important in two situations. One thing is borderline situation. The another one thing is when you get a distended vein, whether it is a JVP or it is due to a block. Any block in the continuity of the liver to the jugulars, any IVC block, the hepatic vein block, IVC block, SVC block, it cannot get this pressure waves reflected up. Now we'll come to the second part, that the wave analysis. So before that, you need to consider what all reasons for the intraluminal, intra-atrial pressure changes and which phase of the cardiac cycle this happens. So the relation of the right atrium and the right ventricle. All of us know the very same electrical impulse lead to contraction of the RA, followed by next phase ventricle contracts, sequential contraction is happening. So before the contraction of chamber, the chamber should get filled. RA gets filled, RA empties, and end of the drop also is given to the RV. Then RV starts contracting. At that time, the proximal valves close. That is the sequence of. So when is the blood getting collected? What is the situation? So the blood starts getting collected with the closure of the tricuspid valve. You imagine when is the tricuspid valve closure happens? Systole starts, and after some time of the systole, this will get closed. So that moment onward, the first sound onwards, the right atrium is totally separated from the RV. The right atrium behaves like a single chamber. IVC and SVC donates blood. Keep on coming. Gradually, the pressure builds up in the right chamber like this. Here. Initially, it collects, and later part of the systole builds up. So, building up like this, and at the peak, the late part of the systole, first sound is the closure. After closure, gradually build up, pressure peaks, and then what happens? Ventricle after closure, systole happens, then empties out, then second sound happens. The diastole started from the second sound. When is the tricuspid valve opening? Diastole started by the semilunar valve's closure sound, second sound. After some more time only, the tricuspid valve and mitral valve opens. So it is in the diastole very somewhere after the diastole has already proceeded further, opens, and the tricuspid valve opens. So the wave, the tricuspid valve opens, the whole thing goes down. So that produces, this is the V wave and this is the Y descent. The Y descent is due to the tricuspid valve opening. The blood is going into the ventricle, and I told you that heat causes the third heart sound also. So that is the descent and the Y descent. After that, pressure has already, right atrial pressure has gone down because it is equalized. So at that time, if there is some problem in the RV where this blood is not received as usual, what happens when the blood is going down? The ventricle receives and relaxes so that it comes down without any grumbling. So then the waves will be coming to the normal situation. Then what happens? After some time, the last part of the diastole, it's already diastole is proceeded. Last part of the diastole, something more happens. Atrium contracts. So atrial pressure goes up in two reasons. The early phase, what you have called, is the pressure build up due to blood coming and filling the chamber. The next step, the pressure build up due to atrial contraction. So after delivering the blood volume initial half, last part contraction gives the last drop of blood to the RV. So the pressure build up again due to the atrial contraction. This is A wave. And this, after contraction, atrium relaxes. Atrium relaxes means the pressure goes down. So what are the reasons for this X descent? This atrial relaxation is happening, so the pressure goes down. And one more reason why this descent is happening is, at what time is the atrial contraction is over? Atrial contraction is over and the ventricle starts contracting. The moment ventricle starts contracting, tricuspid valve closed and tricuspid valve is pulled a little bit down into the RV. So these are the reasons by which RA pressure goes down. So RA pressure goes down due to atrial contraction, and the atrial relaxation is causing the X descent. So we have just covered the V wave and A wave and the Y descent and the X descent. So the timing in relation with the ventricular chamber pressure changes, sound changes. So how can you say the atrial pressure changes? You are not seeing, you are not getting any sounds of the right atrial auscultatory events. So you can hear only the ventricular auscultatory event. You can feel the ventricular events, but atrium is silent. So you are indirectly timing related with the heart sounds of the ventricular pulse. Ventricular pulse means the pulse going out. The carotid or the radial or brachial or larger wave pulse or the heart sounds. Pulse means what? Heart's mitral tricuspid closes and the great vessels open and you are getting the pulse. So arterial pulse is following the first heart sound. Okay. So when is the atrial contraction? It is before the first sound. It is before the carotid pulse. So just remember this one. The waveform you see before the first sound, before the carotid pulse is the A wave. There is V wave is following that. You need not worry about the descent, how long it lasts into the diastole, systole and all. So you can imagine this thing, you can read and find out this thing. So just one thing, A wave is before the first sound, before the carotid pulse. There is one more wave, actually two more wave, which I deliberately avoided, because something called C wave, something called H waves. So just forget about that. Practically it's not needed. You need to know two waves and two descents. Equally important are the descents also. So the analysis of these two waves gives a lot of information about the right-sided the pressure changes. So far I didn't tell one very important thing. This chamber pressure changes are reflected, you are analyzing. One more very interesting thing, this chamber is inside another chamber, thoracic cavity, which undergoes phasic changes of negative and positive changes. 1 minute. So this another outer chamber. The negativity and positivity is created episodically due to the breathing. During the respiratory cycle, 3 or 4 cycles of heart goes on. During the inspiration, more of blood comes into the right side. Expiration, the reverse happens. Practically, for a normal situation, this doesn't matter. But there are certain situations where this may affect the JVP changes, the Kussmaul's breathing signs, and other things which you learn. What about the right-sided pressure changes? I said during the systole, the JVP reflects the pressure in the right atrium. During the diastole, it's reflecting the pressure in the right, entire right RA and RV changes. So imagine the RV, when the RV faces a high pressure in the pulmonary, the RV wall changes and the distensibility changes. Or one situation where the RV is not able to eject out the entire end-diastolic volume. Therefore, RA find it difficult to deliver the blood to the RV. So naturally that stagnates up. So these are the reasons by which you get the pressure changes of the atrial contraction reflected up in case of PH, pulmonary hypertension. The right-sided contraction cannot deliver the blood volume to the RV that easily because it doesn't receive that easily. The airway goes up. When the RV end-diastolic volume high due to low ejection fraction, less of contractility, the RA volume into the RV at the time of the opening of the tricuspid valve again defective, you get the difficulty, V wave. Yes. Another situation when the tricuspid valve closure is not proper, the RV pressure leaks into the RA, you get a very high pressure wave during the ventricular systole. So these are all examples in the clinical situations. So you have just covered the JVP part, different clinical scenarios. I didn't cover the related things. This is venous hum. All these things are related things. We'll talk about that some other time.